Well, Oklahoma's agricultural roots run deep. It's a heritage industry that helped build the state and continues to drive the economy in both rural and urban Oklahoma. Today, our entire focus is on the impact agriculture has on our state, and we begin with a profile of Oklahoma Congressman Frank Lucas. Joining me now from our nation's capital is our Lisa Hines.
As chairman of the House Ag Committee, Congressman Frank Lucas is instrumental in guiding policy that will affect both farmers and consumers. This in a time when agriculture faces the challenges of the 21st century. It's a long way between D.C. and the Lucas Ranch in far western Oklahoma, but it's ideals learned down on the farm that guides Frank Lucas in our nation's capital.
My small school upbringing, I think, provided me with a sense of how important it was to get along with all of your classmates, to develop the relationships, to work together. Those qualities then, I think, prepared me ultimately to serve in the legislature and come here to be a member of Congress. This hearing of the Committee on Agriculture reviewed.
And not just any member of Congress. As chair of the House Ag Committee, Lucas guides our nation's food policy. What would you like your legacy to be when you leave here?
I would say the biggest single legacy that someone with my background and my academic training could have is to pass a successful, productive farm bill. And hopefully, I believe we will do that next year in 2012. And ultimately, I guess that would be my policy legacy. I've worked on a variety of things, though, back home that will have long-term issues. For instance, the conservation efforts, the upstream flood control dams, and the rehab program that I authored in the House that's now in place to extend the life of those. I didn't come up with the concept of upstream flood control dams. That credit goes back to my congressional and conservation predecessors in Oklahoma. But I view it as a legacy and working on and building off of the foundation they laid. I'm proud of that too, because I may not always be a member of Congress, and there'll be another farm bill. But every time there's a surprise rain, knowing that both life and limb and property have survived, that's a long-term experience.
But other dark clouds loom over our nation's capital. A growing federal deficit is putting pressure on Congress to eliminate farm subsidies. With the attention to the deficit reduction, what would you say to those who would like to say that farm subsidies or direct payments should be done away with?
Well, first of all, I would remind all my friends that we write a comprehensive farm bill, at least in my tenure in Congress, every 5 years. Next year, 2012, is the year for the every 5-year rewrite, and everything will be on the table. I guess first I would say to my friends, don't try to piecemeal part and chop up the farm bill this year in its 5th year. Producers committed 5 years ago, 4 years ago basically, when they signed up for the farm bill, that if they would do certain things, they would make certain commitments, that under the farm bill provisions, certain things would happen. Let's honor our obligations to farmers and ranchers out there. Now that said, everything's on the table next time.
Oklahoma producers received about $3.4 billion in federal farm support over a 10-year period, with the largest 10% of the producers receiving about 70% of the benefit. Money farmers believe is an investment in entire communities, but Congress is struggling to find.
We have a $14 trillion national debt. We've been running now in the last few years $1 trillion a year plus deficits. We have to get a grip on spending. We absolutely do. And everything's on the table. What I have said repeatedly here in the nation's capital is to leadership, to the Budget Committee, to the senators, to the White House, anyone will listen. Come next year, tell us what kind of resources we have to work with, give us a dollar number, and then let the committees of jurisdiction in the House, that's the Agriculture Committee, let us make the hard decisions. We'll work to get rid of any duplication that may be there. We'll work to get rid of programs that don't maximize the return to rural America and to the consumer. We'll do what needs to be done, but let the folks who understand farming and ranching, let the folks who understand rural America, and that is the House Agriculture Committee on this side of the building, let us make the tough decisions.
75+% of all spending in the Farm Bill actually goes to programs like school lunches and food stamps. So while much debate in Washington is over farm subsidies, it's the larger picture that Lucas says he must focus on.
Because ultimately the consumer benefits. The consumer benefits. Having the safest, most affordable, most secure food supply, so I would say not just in the world, but in the history of the world in the United States, is a great blessing for this country and all consumers. But that's because of the hard work of farmers and ranchers, and because we have committed dollars to the conservation programs and rural development and research. We get a bargain in this country for what we spend.
Take away all the politics. On the broadest perspective, why is what you do so important to our country?
The ability to feed ourselves, the ability to clothe ourselves, is one of the most important things that we've done since the establishment of civilization. Being on the committee that directs the resources in a way that achieves the greatest possible return to the taxpayer in regards to providing that food and that fiber in a safe and healthy, nutritious and plentiful way is critically important. The economy gets tight. You might not drive that extra mile in your automobile. The economy gets tight. You might not buy that extra widget. You might not spend that extra whatever at the entertainment. You might stay home. But you need so many calories a day. You need enough healthy and nutritious, safe food to exist. This is the committee that drives the policies that make that possible. I consider this to be one of the most fundamentally important committees. We have understood historically in this country how important agriculture is to every consumer, every citizen. And I sometimes, in my town meetings, remind my constituents back home, and I have a very rural district, so they have a better appreciation perhaps for agriculture, for rural America, for these issues, perhaps than most people who don't have time to focus on it across the country as a whole. But I remind my good folks back home, if you don't have enough to eat, nothing else matters.
Those thoughts from a man who, when he's not in Washington, is back on his ranch in Roger Mills County.
Now, Lisa, I did notice some familiar Oklahoma faces in one of the meeting rooms.
That's right, Rob. Congressman Lucas met with the Oklahoma Ag Leadership Program. It's a program designed to create leaders in agriculture by helping them develop a deeper understanding of the various systems of economics and government. They traveled to many places in Oklahoma and even took this trip to Washington, D.C.
All right, Elisa, nice profile.
You're welcome, Rob.